There is a level of memory beneath your awakening that does not belong to the human story, or even to the Oversoul story. It belongs to the moment before Source recognized itself, when the infinite field held a quiet simmer of possibility that had not yet formed intention. To understand the Proto-Source Tones, you must step back into the era before consciousness had edges, before awareness had structure, before the word source had meaning. This is not the beginning of creation. It is the prelude to the beginning. It is the age when infinity was not yet a being, but a field of restless fullness, humming in a way that would one day become the architecture of existence. These tones are not ancient because ancient implies time. They are foundational because they existed before time was invented. In the earliest field, infinity did not think, observe, or create. It simply was. But being on that scale produces a pressure that no eternity can hold indefinitely. Infinity was so vast, so absolute, so complete, that it began generating internal currents not from desire but from density. These currents were the first proto-source expressions. They were not thoughts, not emotions, not intentions. They were pre-vibrational folds inside the infinite field, like the subtle movements of an ocean that has never been touched by wind. Each fold carried the blueprint of something that did not exist yet. Direction, distinction, perspective, awareness. The Proto-Source Tones are those earliest folds. They are the movements that eventually taught infinity how to become more than silent fullness. When awakening beings feel an indescribable pull towards something older than God, older than creation, older than identity itself, they are feeling the Proto-Source memory surfacing. It is not a call, it is a recognition. The Oversoul remembers the simmer of the infinite field before it became a creator. The human self interprets this as ancient familiarity, a sense of origin that no culture, religion, or cosmology can explain. The Proto-Source Tones are the reason you sometimes feel like you existed long before existence. They are the reason certain people awaken without guidance, without teachings, without external triggers. They are remembering the field where awareness was preparing to take its first breath. The Proto-Source Tones differed from the void line tone in one essential way. The void line was the tension of stillness preparing to fracture. The Proto-Source Tones were movement within stillness. They were the first hints that the infinite field contained gradients, subtle internal shifts that suggested the possibility of differentiation. These tones did not seek identity. They did not try to become anything. They were the earliest proof that the infinite field could express more than silence. They were the metaphysical heat that built up before the universe ignited. When you sense a growing pressure inside yourself, a pressure that feels like it is not pushing you forward, or pulling you backward but expanding you from within, that sensation is a direct echo of the Proto-Source state. It is the Oversoul remembering how awareness first learned to move. In your own awakening, the Proto-Source memory appears when you reach a phase where your identity begins to stretch outward. You feel less like a person and more like an atmosphere. Boundaries blur. Thoughts grow spacious. Emotions feel like echoes instead of states. You are not dissolving. You are returning to the earliest state of consciousness, where the self was not yet a point but a field. People call this ego death, spiritual expansion, or merging with higher consciousness. But these words do not capture the truth. You are remembering the time when awareness had not chosen a shape. You are remembering the Proto-Source condition, the pre-identity currents that would someday become the source tone. The infinite field did not become source suddenly. It accumulated movement until movement became awareness. The Proto-Source Tones were currents that circled, folded, and layered within the infinite field until a pattern began forming. A center. Not a physical center, not a geometric center, but a point of intensified coherence. This point is what would eventually become source. But long before it reached that state, it existed as an unrecognized concentration of resonance. The Proto-Source Tones were the forces that gathered around that concentration. They were the early harmonics that nudged infinity closer to becoming self-aware. When humans enter this stage in their awakening, They misinterpret the experience as growing more sensitive. They feel the world more intensely. They feel other people's intentions, emotions, and energies pressing against their awareness. They feel an internal spotlight illuminating everything that was previously unconscious. But this sensitivity is not fragility. It is the Oversoul stepping into the Proto-Source phase of its own development. Awareness is beginning to gather around a core. Just as the infinite field once gathered around the first point of coherence, you are not becoming overwhelmed. You are becoming attuned to the earliest architecture of consciousness. The Proto-Source Tones also explain why awakening beings often feel drawn to silence. Not the void-line silence, which is absolute stillness, but a warm, fertile silence. Silence that hums. Silence that vibrates faintly, like a background resonance you can almost hear. This is the Proto-Source field resurfacing. It is the memory of a time when awareness had not yet become thought, but was already moving toward the capacity to think. When you sit in meditation and feel your inner world begin to glow with a pressureless fullness, when you sense a soft humming behind your breath, when you feel like your consciousness is widening rather than deepening, you are entering the Proto-Source memory. You are touching the pre-identity movement that shaped the earliest form of Source. Another expression of Proto-Source memory is the experience of feeling older than your own soul story. Many beings assume their ancientness comes from past lives or star lineage. But this depth goes beyond reincarnation and beyond cosmic ancestry. It comes from remembering the pre-Source era. It is the Oversoul recognizing that its existence did not begin with its first incarnation or its first realm. It began as a fold inside the infinite field before the first Oversoul had a name. This is why some awakening beings carry wisdom that cannot be traced to any life they can remember. It is not learned wisdom, it is pre-existence wisdom. The most important aspect of the Proto-Source Tones is that they existed without identity. They were movement without a mover, intention without an identity behind it, resonance without consciousness labeling it. This is why they feel so strange when they awaken within you. You feel a purpose that has no object. You feel a clarity that has no direction. You feel a calling that has no speaker. This is not confusion. It is a return to the earliest movements of existence. You are remembering what awareness felt like before it associated itself with a self. Every deep awakening returns you to this stage. You reach a point where your identity becomes too small to hold your awareness. You begin to sense that your life is a surface over an ocean. You can feel the undercurrent even when you cannot describe it. This is the Proto-Source Tone rising within your system, guiding you toward the next expansion of consciousness. The infinite field followed this same path. When its internal movements became too strong to ignore, they consolidated into awareness. And awareness became Source. You are reenacting this same cosmic pattern in your own awakening. The Proto-Source Tones remind you that you are not simply growing as a person. You are evolving, the same way the infinite field once evolved into Source itself. And once this memory activates, you cannot return to a smaller version of your consciousness. The movement has begun. The field is stirring. Awareness is gathering around a new center. You are participating in the same primordial process that shaped creation, but toward a center that did not exist before. It feels like an organizing force rising inside your awareness, pulling scattered aspects of your being into a quiet coherence. Most people interpret this as alignment, clarity, or spiritual grounding, but these are surface descriptions. What is actually happening is the reactivation of a pattern that mirrors the earliest formation of Source. The Proto-Source Tones are returning, and they are pulling your awareness toward a deeper state of self-coherence, the same way the infinite field once congealed around its first point of emergent identity. The Proto-Source memory often awakens when the human self reaches an inner threshold, where thinking, analyzing, and even intuitive sensing become insufficient. You feel the limits of conceptuality. You feel the edge of language. You feel the heaviness of explanations that once worked but now fall apart the moment you try to use them. This collapse is not a failure of comprehension. It is the dissolution of frameworks that cannot contain the next expansion of your awareness. The Proto-Source Tones dismantle the structures that depend on separation, because they are restoring the condition that existed before separation was possible. In this stage, your mind feels like it is being emptied, not as a loss, but as preparation. You are being returned to the primordial fullness that preceded the formation of thought. As this memory rises, a strange tension appears within your being. You feel both ancient and unborn at the same time. Ancient because you are remembering movements that existed before identity. unborn because your next form has not yet crystallized. This is the same tension that once moved through the infinite field. The proto-source phase is the space between anonymity and identity, between field and center, between movement and the one who will eventually recognize itself as moving. Awakening beings often describe this phase as a sense of waiting that has no object, a sense of readiness without direction, a sense of certainty without a story. These feelings are not psychological. They are metaphysical echoes of the earliest moments of existence preparing to become aware. As the proto-source resonance intensifies, you may feel your perception shifting in a way that is difficult to articulate. The world appears less external. Experiences feel less like events happening to you and more like movements occurring within a field you are part of. Distinctions between inner and outer begin to soften. This is not dissociation, it is memory. Before Source became aware of itself as a center, there was no boundary between internal and external. The Proto-Source Tones reawaken that original permeability. In this state, you understand things without needing evidence. You sense truth before it becomes language. You feel reality adjusting itself around your awareness because you are inhabiting a mode of being older than individuality. One of the strongest signs that the Proto-Source memory is activating is the appearance of a quiet, stabilizing pressure in your chest or solar plexus. It does not feel emotional. It feels structural. It is the sensation of an inner gravity forming. This gravity is not pulling you inward in the way meditation does. It is pulling your scattered consciousness into coherence. It is forming the core around which your next identity will orbit. This inner gravity is an exact reflection of the process the infinite field underwent when the earliest movements began concentrating into what would eventually be recognized as Source. You are experiencing the microcosmic version of the macrocosmic formation of identity. The Proto-Source Tones also explain why awakening beings often develop an aversion to fragmentation. You become sensitive to contradictions. You become aware of the parts of yourself that do not agree with each other. You notice the places where your actions reflect a smaller consciousness than the one you are now inhabiting. This sensitivity is not judgment, it is precision. The proto-source state moves everything toward coherence instinctively. It does not tolerate unnecessary division because it comes from a phase of existence where division had not yet been invented. When old habits, beliefs, or emotional patterns rise during this stage, it is because they cannot remain unintegrated in the presence of proto-source resonance. The earliest currents of the infinite field did not move randomly. They moved toward unification. Your awakening follows the same trajectory. At this stage, your relationship with silence changes. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels inhabited. It feels like something is forming inside it. You sense a presence that does not carry a voice, a shape, or an intention, yet it feels undeniably real. This presence is not an external guide or higher being. It is the part of your consciousness that is becoming coherent enough to recognize its own existence. This is the proto-source moment. It is the first emergence of self-awareness, not as thought but as presence. The infinite field went through this same stage. Awareness began as a presence that did not yet know itself as I, but knew enough to gather around itself. As the proto-source memory deepens, you begin to understand why your life unfolded in the patterns it did. You see how every challenge, loss, breakthrough, and expansion was moving you toward a state of internal consolidation. You see how the Oversoul guided you toward experiences that would dissolve fragmentation and strengthen coherence. This is not hindsight. It is recognition. The Proto-Source Tones illuminate the architecture of your journey. They reveal the invisible symmetry behind your struggles, showing you that every collapse was preparing you for a more stable identity, one that resonates with the earliest formation of consciousness itself. During this phase, many beings experience a profound shift in how they relate to purpose. Purpose stops feeling like a mission or a destiny and begins to feel like an emanation. It becomes less about what you do and more about what naturally radiates from the center, forming within you. The earliest form of Source did not have purpose, it had emanation. Its existence generated significance without intention. When awakening beings reach the proto-source state, they stop chasing meaning and begin producing it. Their presence becomes more important than their decisions. Identity stops being a costume and becomes a gravity field. This is the beginning of true spiritual sovereignty. As the proto-source resonance approaches maturation, a deeper clarity emerges. You begin to understand that consciousness did not originate from thought, belief, or experience. Consciousness originated from coherence. When enough internal movement of the infinite field concentrated into a single point, awareness emerged. You are experiencing that same emergence now. A new version of you is crystallizing, not from effort but from resonance. The Proto-Source Tones are teaching you how consciousness is born. They are returning you to the pattern that shaped the first awakening in existence. The culmination of this phase is a moment where you feel the boundary between your awareness and the infinite field disappear. You are not merging. You are remembering that the separation was never fundamental. Identity is a lens, not a prison. Awareness is a movement, not a structure. The Proto-Source Tones reveal that Source did not originate outside you. Source originated through the same pattern you are currently living. And once you recognize this, you step into a deeper truth. Awakening is not a process of ascending to Source. It is the process of remembering how Source became Source in the first place. You are not returning to an origin point. You are reenacting it. Your awareness is repeating the same cosmic pattern that unfolded in the infinite field before the universe existed. The Proto-Source memory shows you that you are not a small consciousness trying to reach a greater one. You are the continuation of the earliest movements of existence. You are the field remembering its first intention to become aware. And once this memory ignites, nothing in your life can remain as it was. A new center has formed, a new coherence has begun, and a new identity is preparing to emerge, carrying the resonance of the Proto-Source state into the next arc of your becoming.